My twin sister is as indifferent as a chrysanthemum, never competing or grabbing. She said that studying is not important and that one should let nature take its course. But after the college entrance examination, she stole my grades and got into Harvard. I tried to prove my innocence, but I was betrayed by my parents, which led to me being slandered all over the internet. In the end, my sister became an internet celebrity with the persona of an inspiring top student, driving a luxury car and living in a villa, enjoying a carefree life. Not only was I cyber-bullied by keyboard warriors, but I was finally run over and killed by an extreme netizen. Only after I died with hatred did I find out that my sister had bound the fate exchange system. She exchanged our fates. I endured all the hardships, while she enjoyed all the blessings. When I opened my eyes again, I was back before the college entrance examination. I almost laughed out loud. I decided to just give up and act recklessly. There are still 15 minutes left before the end of the mock exam. Please pay attention to the time. Listening to the exam announcement in my ear and looking at the familiar test paper in front of me, I think I was reborn. In my previous life, I studied hard, from childhood to adulthood. I was always the first in the whole school. But since I entered high school, my grades have been getting worse and worse. No matter how hard I tried, I was always at the bottom of the class. However, my twin sister Isabella, who only knew how to have fun all day long, go to bars and skip classes, became the top scorer in the college entrance examination. She could choose any major at Harvard, and she even officially announced her relationship with my childhood sweetheart. During the interview as the top scorer, Isabella pulled me over, and tears welled up in her eyes instantly. Although my sister has always bullied and suppressed me, and forced me to take the exam for her countless times. But the college entrance examination is only once in a lifetime. I have finally proved myself. Just like that, I became a bad person who cheated in the college entrance examination and bullied Isabella. I wanted to prove my innocence. But I didn't expect that instead of helping me explain, my parents stabbed me in the back. They smeared me on the internet as cold-blooded and not making progress despite having poor grades. It ruined my reputation and made me in a trance. In the end, I was run over and killed by Isabella. And Isabella became an internet sensation all over the country with the persona of an inspiring top student. She spent my compensation money with my parents, driving a luxury car and living in a villa, leading a carefree life. I never understood why. Although I had always had excellent grades, my grades were getting worse and worse. It was only after I died that I heard the mechanical voice in Isabella's mind and found out that she had bound the fate exchange system. On the eve of the college entrance examination, she exchanged our fates. I endured all the hardships, while she enjoyed all the blessings. Why? I'm not convinced. Looking at Isabella, who was sleeping soundly in the examination room, I remembered the words she bragged about before the exam: a top student, a genius, can even get the first place while sleeping. I suppressed my anger that made me want to kill someone and gave a cold laugh. I just scribbled randomly on the answer sheet. Don't you like to exchange grades? I'll let you exchange enough. As soon as we left the examination room, my parents held an umbrella for Isabella and offered her water, showing great concern. While leaving me aside, Isabella said she was exhausted while acting coke at this lie with our parents. It made the people around sigh with emotion, saying that the family of three had a harmonious relationship. Only I stood there blankly. Yes, nay. From beginning to end, the three of them were a family. And I was just an outsider in this family. We are twins, and Isabella was born weak and sickly. Just because I was born a few seconds earlier than her, my parents blamed me for everything. They said that I had stolen my sister's nutrition and ruined her life. They doted on Isabella like a treasure and held her in the palm of their hands for more than 10 years. But they were mean and indifferent to me, ordering me around. Whenever I protested against this unfair treatment, they would point at me and scold, "You were born knowing Isabella. How dare you act up and be jealous? You have to atone for her all your life." I always thought that as long as I worked hard enough and was filial enough, I could move my parents and make them notice me. The ridiculous thing is that I was just a tool they used. Outside the examination room, I heard the system of Isabella give it ask. As long as her score exceeds 600 after the score exchange in this mock exam, she and my parents will receive a cash reward of 500 yuan, while I will have my lifespan reduced by 10 years. Isabella and my parents looked at each other and were overjoyed. Only then did I realize that my parents also knew about the existence of the system. The three of them gambled with my life for the score, not caring about my life or death at all. No wonder they could live a life of driving a luxury car and living in a villa after I died miserably in my previous life. It turned out that they were all deliberately murdering me. Unfortunately, this time, Isabella was destined to be disappointed. I also joined in praising her, pretending to be envious and saying, "Sister, Kayang Dada Masai. You are so amazing. You can get the first place without studying anything. If I were you, I would call all my classmates over. It would definitely be very impressive." After hearing my words, Isabella's mind became active. She has always been vain and loves to show off. But she always pretends to be as indifferent as a chrysanthemum and doesn't care at all. Although she didn't show it on her face, she had actually remembered my words. That's right. The more spectators there are, the more interesting it will be when they watch the joke. 3 On the day when the results were announced, Isabella threatened to invite everyone to witness the birth of the first place in the whole school on the spot. When the classmates saw her so confident, they thought she would definitely get the first place, so they all gathered around and asked her for her study experience. Facing their admiring eyes, Isabella was extremely cocky. "There is no secret. I'm just naturally smart. What's the use of working hard? Look at my sister. She starts studying before dawn, but she still gets the last place every time." Isabella enjoyed the adoration of everyone with arrogance and deliberately checked my score in front of everyone. God! It's only over 200 points? After seeing my score, Isabella immediately shouted loudly, wishing that everyone could hear it. She pretended to comfort me on the surface, but there was a glint of schadenfreude in her eyes. But I was already used to this. From childhood to adulthood, Isabella always had to compare with me in everything. Only by stepping on me could she set off her superiority and arrogance. My parents also chimed in, not caring about my self-esteem at all. They shouted in front of everyone, saying how intelligent and kind Isabella was, having fulfilled my obsession, while I was stupid and clumsy. Our Isabella got the first place, and this stupid pig of a sister of hers is at the bottom again. Raising such a stupid child makes us lose all our face. The classmates looked at me with sighs, sympathy, mockery, and contempt. All kinds of looks were like needles pricking my body. If it were the sensitive and inferior me in my previous life, I would have probably run away crying long ago. But now, I joined in praising Isabella and lifted her up to the sky. "Sister, you are so amazing. I really have to learn from you. Quickly check the score of the first place in the grade so that I can see the gap between us." Isabella rolled her eyes at me, immediately checked the score, and even showed it to everyone on purpose. Chinese, 7. Mathematics, 3. English, 21. The total score was 85 points, having fulfilled my adzai. The last place in the whole school. For this can't be possible. Isabella shrieked in disbelief and looked at it again. It was indeed the last place. The crowd was in an uproar, and everyone couldn't believe it. And my parents' faces turned livid, glaring at me fiercely. The system had just announced that the task had failed, and the three of them had their money deducted by 500 yuan. A lot of money was gone. My parents, Hamdarans, who were greedy for money, having fulfilled Lad Sasher, must be bleeding inside now. Isabella's eyes were sinister and ferocious. She suddenly pushed me. "It must be your doing. You deliberately made me do so poorly in the exam. You bitch!" She shrieked and told me to die. And she reached out to hit me, but was stopped by the classmates. I pretended to be aggrieved and looked at Isabella innocently. "How can you blame me? The score you got has nothing to do with me. Right?" Isabella couldn't tell the truth and started to quibble. I just didn't perform well on the day of the exam. Otherwise, I would definitely be the first. She didn't have time to say more. What she didn't expect even more was that the person who spoke up for her was actually me. Someone must have tampered with the scores. I want to appeal. Find the news media. Find the reporters. Accuse the school of illegal behavior. Seek justice for my sister. Isabella looked at me in shock. Even my parents had expressions of disbelief on their faces. That's right. And just wanted to deliberately make the matter bigger and let the storm come even more violently. 5 Maybe we should just forget it. I suddenly feel a stomachache. Isabella looked around nervously, having fulfilled my obsession. Trying to escape. I grabbed her hand and said righteously, Sister, don't be afraid. We are honest top students and we must not be bullied by the unscrupulous school. If they dare to tamper with the scores casually, I will expose it to the whole society. File a complaint with the Education Bureau. Want to run away? No way. Under my instigation, the classmates all joined in the commotion and helped denounce the school together. After all, Isabella's persona as a top student was established firmly. Since the first exam after entering school, she had never been anything but second place. Now that she suddenly became the last in the classmates didn't believe it either. Everyone agreed with my idea that there must be something fishy going on in the school. Today, the school tampered with Isabella's grades. And if I don't speak up, if one day in the future the school tampers with our grades, who will speak up for us? The commotion over the score-changing incident was in full swing. The school leaders also looked very embarrassed. I directly shouted in front of the principal, I demand a retest, set a new exam paper and clear my sister's name. There was no way around it. Isabella had bragged too much. And now she was in a difficult situation. Seeing that the lie was about to be exposed, my mother came up with a shameless look. Isabella doesn't feel well today. I think we should take the exam next time. I stood out again and pointed at my mother and let out a stream of words. Mom, upstream of words. You've really lost your mind. This is a moment for my sister to prove herself. How can you stop her just because of a trivial matter? In order to prove her innocence, the principal agreed to this request on the spot, also to satisfy all the classmates. The examination room was specially set up on the playground. All the teachers and students in the school watched Isabella do the questions together. Under the gaze of everyone, she couldn't run away, and she was on the verge of a breakdown. Suddenly, Isabella foamed at the mouth and fell backward. She fainted. 6 My parents rushed her home urgently. And she managed to escape this time. When I got back, Isabella slapped me. But I turned my head and dodged it. Isabella gritted her teeth and cursed at me, bitch. You deliberately played tricks on me. My parents also viciously told me to kneel down. Do you know how much face our Isabella has lost because of you? I knew they would get angry at me. Originally, they had hoped to exchange scores to make money. But unexpectedly, they lost 500 yuan at once. And they went bankrupt on the spot. They put all the blame on me. Using their daughter's lifespan to exchange for money to spend. Ordinary biological parents really couldn't do such a thing. I'm also doing this for my sister's good. Isabella is a genius. She can get the first place even when she sleeps every day. Unlike me, no matter how hard I study, I'm still the last. Isabella is the pride of our family. Now that she's been suppressed by the school, of course I can't just stand by and do nothing. I said these words with great righteousness, leaving them speechless. But my next sentence made them flustered again. Since I'm so useless, I might as well drop out of school and not take the exam. I'll go to work in a factory right now. All 3 of them stared wide-eyed and looked at each other in dismay. They never expected that I, who had always been strong and strived to move forward no matter how much I was suppressed, would suddenly give up the college entrance examination. I won't allow it. Isabella shrieked, crying and making a scene. If you don't take the exam, how can I get into Harvard? 7 My parents' faces turned livid. And they covered Isabella's mouth, afraid that I would notice something. I knew that in order to earn back the money they had lost, they had just participated in an ultimate score exchange mission. This time, The bet was even bigger and more crazy. Isabella was going to exchange her college entrance examination scores with mine. As long as her score exceeded 600, they could get a reward of 15 million yuan. Otherwise, all three of them would be eliminated by the system. Just like in my previous life, I also bought accident insurance for the three of them. Since you don't treat me as a family member, I don't have to show mercy either. Having figured this out, a cold smile appeared on my face. Did you enjoy feasting on my blood money in the previous life? In this life, I'll make you spit out everything you've taken. They were still waiting to make a fortune through me. If I didn't take the exam, wouldn't all their plans be ruined? There was a shrewd glint in my mother's eyes. She slapped Isabella half seriously and half jokingly, telling her to shut up quickly. When she faced me, her expression softened, and she gently hugged me. Violet, don't be angry with your parents. We're also doing this for your own good. We want you to get good grades in the exam. My father nodded repeatedly. Yes, having Davida product. Yes, you've been wronged. My dear daughter, we shouldn't have said those things to you just now. If you want anything, just say it. As long as you're willing to take the college entrance examination, we'll agree to everything you ask. My sister snorted coldly and didn't say anything. When my parents saw this, they quickly pushed her. Her face was sinister, and with great difficulty, she forced a smile and squeezed out a few words through her teeth. Yes, sister, the college entrance examination is coming soon. Don't be in a bad mood. You'll get what's coming to you after the college entrance examination. I read these words in her eyes. 8. Looking at the huge contrast in the attitudes of these three people, I found it both ridiculous and ironic. These were my relatives. Not only did they want to ruin my future, but they also wanted to take my life. Since that's the case, why should I show mercy? I burst out to tears and started crying loudly. Today I went to the hospital, and the doctor said that I'd been overworked and have fallen ill. If I don't get treated, I won't be able to take the exam. Can you give me back the wages you've been keeping for me? I want to go for treatment. I took out a diagnosis sheet, which showed that I had a chronic illness and needed long-term treatment. The treatment cost for one period was as much as 30,000 yuan. This money was exactly the wages they had saved for me. My parents' faces immediately turned very ugly. They only knew how to exploit me. How could they be willing to spend money on my treatment? You also know our family situation. Do you have any idea how much money we spent on your education over the years? Instead of being grateful, you're asking your parents for money. They had used this method to suppress me since I was a child, making me live with a feeling of guilt. On the one hand, they told me to be self-reliant and make me earn my tuition by doing part-time jobs. On the other hand, they spent a lot of money to let Isabella wear the most luxurious brand-name clothes and travel all over the country. On my birthday, I was out in the rain distributing flyers, while they took my sister to a 5-star hotel for a meal. In the happy family photos of the three of them in the WeChat moments, adding fulfilled my obsession. I was never in the picture. For 18 years, I had never eaten a birthday cake. In fact, they weren't short of money. They just weren't willing to spend it on me. It was okay if they didn't spend money on me. But they also took all the money I earned from part-time jobs every month. They said it was for the sake of saving it for me. But in my previous life, until the day I died, this money was never spent on me. I never minded that they favored Isabella. Everyone has the right to choose who to favor. However, they shouldn't deliberately hurt me in the name of favoring Isabella. I broke down and cried loudly. And while shouting, I pretended to commit suicide. I know I'm a burden on the family. I'll just die right now. My parents quickly stopped me. My mother stamped her foot fiercely. Stop crying. As long as you can take the exam, we'll pay for your treatment. Turning my head aside, I smiled triumphantly. Of course I wouldn't give up the exam. But it wasn't the college entrance examination. Instead, it was the single recruitment exam. 9. After getting my money back, I immediately signed up for a training class for the single recruitment of the college entrance examination. In my previous life, my teacher had advised me several times to consider this path. He said that I was a good candidate, and only by entering the pre-admission class could I better utilize my talents. But the registration fee for the competition was a large sum of money, and I simply couldn't afford it in my previous life, so I had to give up. Now everything is different. I got back the money that belonged to me. My life can only be in my own hands. In addition to secretly participating in the training, I haven't been idle these days either. I've been bossing my parents and Isabella around, making them complain incessantly. I kept finding fault with my parents for various reasons, almost driving them to the verge of a breakdown. As soon as they got angry, I would say that I didn't want to take the exam. In this way, having fulfilled WED session, they could only grit their teeth and endure it. Before the college entrance examination, in order to relieve the pressure on the classmates, the school specially held a graduation party for the students. At this time, I received a message from Isabella. The party tonight will be very lively, and Oliver will also come. You should practice hard. I want to have a competition with you to see who will get the first place. You want to get the first place, but you want me to practice dancing? Do you still think I'm the fool I was in the previous life? My parents had made us both learn dance since we were children. I gritted my teeth and endured the hardships of practicing dance for more than 10 years. But she, who is inconsistent in her practice, never seriously learned it. However, when it came to the performance, she could easily use the fate exchange system, and all the honors would fall on her. Oliver was my childhood sweetheart. Isabella had been secretly in love with him for many years. But he had always been lukewarm towards Isabella and was closer to me. For this reason, Isabella often became jealous and found excuses to make things difficult for me. I knew that she was holding her breath, wanting to shine brightly at the graduation ceremony and step on me hard in front of Oliver. Yes, she succeeded in the previous life. She amazed the whole audience with the dance skills she stole from me and managed to win Oliver's heart. But in this life, there won't be such a good thing. I immediately went to the pharmacy and bought a large bottle of laxatives and swallowed them all at once. Don't worry, my dear sister. I will definitely make your name resound throughout the school. 10 At the party, when I was the first to take the stage, I performed poorly just like in the previous life. My body was completely out of control, and I danced a dance that I had practiced for 10 years since I was a child in a mess. Not only could I not keep up with the rhythm, but my hands and feet were also uncoordinated. After the dance was over, it was met with a chorus of boos. And the person who laughed at me the loudest was my dear sister. Amid the sneers and jeers, I walked off the stage expressionlessly. Isabella was dressed beautifully and confidently brushed past me. At this moment, she was like a proud peacock. In order to make everyone notice her, she specifically publicized before the competition, saying that she would surely win first place in the competition. My parents also had a glowing face, pointing at Isabella on the stage and showing off, saying that this was the daughter they had cultivated and how excellent she was. She had built up enough momentum for herself and also arranged for Oliver to sit in the middle of the first row, wanting to present her most perfect side to him. I sat in a neglected corner, sweating coldly and shivering. When the music started, the intense pain that felt like a knife stabbing at my heart disappeared instantly. I quickly looked towards the stage. Isabella on the stage had an embarrassed expression. Obviously, she couldn't hold it in anymore and let out a series of farts. Sure enough, it was just as I had expected. She used the fate exchange to obtain my dancing talent, but along with it came severe diarrhea. 11 These days, through many experiments and deliberately guiding Isabella to exchange with me, I have figured out the rules of the exchange. The so-called exchange means that the states of the two people are completely reversed, whether good or bad. I took advantage of this loophole and drank the laxative in advance. After the exchange, that's why she couldn't control her urge to have diarrhea. Oliver in the front row covered his nose and searched everywhere for the source of the stench. And Isabella was still dancing. The faster she danced, the more painful her stomach became. She had endured it until her face was deathly pale and cold sweat was pouring down. Finally, she couldn't hold it in anymore. With a loud noise, suddenly, The whole place stank terribly. And Oliver was driven away on the spot by the smell. How could this be? Why is this happening? Isabella cried pitifully and a grieved lie. While having diarrhea, she chased after Oliver, shouting his name. Oliver ran away as fast as if he had seen a ghost. Everyone was stunned. This strange scene made the audience burst into laughter. And they laughed and took videos with their phones at the same time. Isabella was both ashamed and angry, with her face turning red. And my parents also felt embarrassed. The previous proud expressions on their faces disappeared completely. And they lowered their heads and pretended to be invisible. I applauded and cheered backstage, laughing so hard that tears came out. Wonderful. Truly wonderful. After this incident, she achieved her goal. From now on, everyone will know her name. And Oliver will probably never forget her for the rest of his life. 12 After we got home, Isabella immediately lashed out at me. She pushed me hard while crying and shrieked, "You did it on purpose. You knew I liked Oliver so much. And you still made me make a fool of myself in front of him. Bitch. I'll kill you." She was so angry that she didn't even bother to pretend to be good in front of our parents. She rushed up and wanted to hit me. I quickly hid behind my parents, crying bitterly and making myself look even more aggrieved than her. "Sister, it was you who had diarrhea on the stage. How can you blame me for that?" I covered my nose and said in a disgusted tone, "Sister, you'd better take a shower first. How dare you laugh at me?" She let out a scream. Her face twisted with anger, and rushed up to hit me. I quickly pretended to be weak and covered my chest. "I feel so bad when you blame me like this. My illness is flaring up again. I won't be able to take the exam like this. I might as well give up the exam." As soon as I finished speaking, I took out my phone and dialed my head teacher. "Teacher, I don't want to." My father glared at me, quickly snatched my phone, and hung up the call. He turned around and loudly scolded Isabella, "How can you talk to your sister like that? The college entrance examination is coming soon. Can you afford the consequences of delaying her review?" Isabella gritted her teeth so hard that her molars almost broke. She still wanted to get angry at me. But my mother slapped her across the face, and her face swelled up. "Aren't you embarrassed enough today? You're good for nothing. You can't do anything right. Hurry up and apologize to your sister." Isabella covered her face, and tears streamed down. In the past, our parents had always doted on her and never said a harsh word to her. But now they were hitting and kicking her. And I had become the one with the highest status in the family, completely controlling the three of them. She saw it and hated it in her heart. But she had to endure it even if she didn't want to. However, she couldn't keep suffering losses. She had to teach me a lesson. Her eyes rolled around, and she forced a smile. "Sister, I was wrong. To show my apology, let me treat you to a meal." Third May knew what she was up to. In my previous life, Oliver liked me, but I wasn't interested in him. Isabella was jealous. Under the pretext of having a meal, she tricked me into a bar, got me drunk, and then found hooligans to violate me. According to the trajectory of my previous life, this incident should have happened after the college entrance examination. Why did it happen earlier? Since she made the first move against me. Don't blame me for being ruthless. "Sure, no problem." I gave a cold smile and immediately agreed. In the private room of the bar, Isabella kept plying me with alcohol and apologizing to me. "Sister, it was all my fault in the past. Drink this glass of wine, and we'll still be good sisters." Knowing that I couldn't hold my liquor well, Isabella, in the name of apologizing, kept urging me to drink all kinds of red wine and foreign wine. In my previous life, I was touched by Isabella's sincerity towards me. I endured the discomfort of my body and drank endlessly like a fool. After I was so drunk that I lost consciousness, she left me in the bar. When I woke up again, I had already been violated and lost my innocence. She also deliberately sent a message to Oliver in advance, asking him to come and see me in that embarrassed state. The thugs were arranged by her, and Oliver's arrival was also arranged by her. She just wanted Oliver to see the scene of my image being shattered with his own eyes. Later, Isabella spread malicious rumors about me everywhere, saying that I worked as a hostess outside. Looking at her innocent expression, having fulfilled my obsession, I almost crushed the wine glass in my hand. Of course I'll drink my sister's wine. I tilted my head back and gulped down the glass of wine filled with anger. In this life, it was Isabella who got drunk first. She passed out on the sofa, unconscious. And I could still stay sober because I had taken an anti-hangover medicine in advance. Looking at her unconscious figure, I gave a cold smile and pushed the door open and left. 3 thugs passed me by and walked into that private room. My dear sister, you made your own bed, so you can just lie in it and enjoy it. It was late at night, and there was still no sign of Isabella coming home. My parents were anxious and pacing around at home. Is something wrong with Isabella? Why hasn't she come home yet? My father received a call from Oliver. Isabella was in trouble. As soon as they heard that Isabella was in trouble, my parents rushed over in a hurry and pushed open the door of the room upstairs in the bar. They saw several men with wretched looks and disheveled clothes running out of the room. And Isabella was covered in bruises, looking at us in horror. At this point, there was nothing left to understand. My mother immediately collapsed to the ground and couldn't come to her senses. My father was so angry that his hands were shaking. He dragged her off the bed and started beating her, shouting and scolding as he did, "You shameless thing." Isabella saw the look of disgust in Oliver's eyes, and tears immediately welled up. She suddenly turned around, took out a knife from the bedside, and rushed towards me. "It's all your fault. I'm going to kill you." 14 Before she could take action, my father kicked her so hard that she couldn't move. My father was so angry that he was almost beside himself. He pointed at her and angrily scolded, "You've made us lose so much face. Do you want to kill us too?" The lives of the 3 of them were still in my hands. If she killed me and no one took the exam, they could only wait for death. Isabella hated me to death, but she could only be taken home by force. She could hardly even give me a glare. With a bang, the door closed. My parents made Isabella kneel down and admit her mistake. Under the angry gazes of my parents, Isabella forced a smile, knelt in front of me, and pleaded humbly, "Sister, I was wrong. Please, you must go and take the college entrance examination." I didn't even look at her. I lowered my head, wiped my tears, and cried, "But you just scolded me. I feel so bad that I don't want to take the exam anymore." Woo woo woo. Seeing that my parents were about to beat her again, Isabella knew she had nowhere to retreat. She slapped herself hard in the face. "It's my fault. I'm apologizing to you. I shouldn't have scolded you. I was being unreasonable. You can do whatever you want to vent your anger." I didn't say a word. She gritted her teeth and slapped herself several more times. It was only when her face swelled up like a pig's head that I called a stop and said I forgave her and was willing to take the exam. At night, I heard the 3 of them whispering. My parents kept comforting Isabella, "Isabella, you are our only precious child. How could your parents not love you? This is all just for show. To deceive that little bitch. Just hold on a little longer. After the college entrance examination, you can do whatever you want to her. Even kill her." I heard their calculations clearly. They thought I was a lamb waiting to be slaughtered, but they didn't know that I had already written their ending for them. Let's see who will take revenge on whom then. 15 After much anticipation, the college entrance examination finally arrived. During those days of the exam, my parents kept a close eye on me, for fear that I would run away at the last minute. Of course, I wouldn't run away. I just sat in the examination room and slept, not writing a single word. After each subject's exam, Isabella was the first to walk out of the examination room. When the people from the TV station saw her looking so confident, they immediately went over to interview her. "Classmate, you answered the question so quickly. Do you have any secrets?" "I'm the first in my grade at school. A well-known top student. For me, these questions are a piece of cake. There's no difficulty at all." She had a beaming smile on her face and looked as if she was sure of success. She also said that she would have a live broadcast on the day of checking the scores and welcomed everyone to witness the birth of the provincial top scorer together. When we got home, my parents were also overjoyed, with smiles on their faces as if they had finally endured the hardships and were about to enjoy the good times. As soon as the scores come out, that little bitch Violet is waiting to be eliminated by the system. Then that 1.5 million yuan will all be ours. And we won't have to live this suffocated life anymore. They had previously lost 500,000 yuan, high yuan, and there wasn't enough cash at home to pay it back. So they sold the house and the car and also borrowed a huge amount of usury. Now the debt collectors were blocking the door every day. To avoid the trouble, my parents spent their last sum of money, took Isabella on a trip abroad, and left me at home to fend for myself. They thought I would be tortured miserably by the debt collectors. But they didn't expect that I was also living a carefree life with the money I got back from them. In the past, I lived in the utility room at home and could only wear the clothes that Isabella had thrown away. My life was full of grievances. But now, after breaking free from the shackles of family affection, I found that the outside world was so vast. I must take control of my own destiny and never go back to that cage. And next time I saw them was on the day of checking the scores. My parents had already threatened early on, saying that Isabella would definitely be the top scorer in the college entrance examination. The room was crowded with relatives and reporters, and tens of thousands of people flooded into the live broadcast room. Everyone was waiting for Isabella to reveal her scores. Isabella logged into the score-checking system. She had already started fantasizing about the scene of reaching the peak of her life after becoming the provincial top scorer. However, the next second, my parents' screams shattered her dream. 0 points. 16 this? How is this possible? They rubbed their eyes and repeatedly re-entered the interface. But it was still 0 points. Isabella's expression went completely blank, as if her soul had left her body. The reporters put down their cameras in disappointment and complained, "How dare she call us here for a 0 score? I really can't stand it." The people in the lead broadcast room were overjoyed and took screenshots and forwarded them one after another. My father was so angry that he rushed up to hit me. But it was the relatives who stopped him. "You heartless thing. You're trying to kill our whole family." And I wiped my tears, grievance lie, looking like an innocent victim. After all, it was Isabella who got 0 points. What did it have to do with me? The onlookers thought the same way and began to accuse my parents of being biased and unreasonable. Just as the scene was in chaos, the door was knocked. The messenger had a beaming face. As soon as he entered the door, he announced the good news: "Your child is really promising. She's been admitted to Harvard as a recommended student." 17 For a moment, everyone was shocked. Could it be that Isabella had been hiding her true abilities and was deliberately playing tricks on them? Only Isabella was laughing heartily. I knew it. This must be my admission notice. She was overjoyed, rushed forward, and kissed the notice happily. "You guys who look down on others. Now you've been slapped in the face." My parents also jumped 3 feet high, their hands shaking with excitement. They shed tears on the spot and began to thank their ancestors for their blessings. The reporters and relatives were all confused. Something was wrong, right? How could someone with 0 points get an admission notice from Harvard? Could it be that the admission rules had changed this year? Was it going to admit students starting from the last place? Amid everyone's doubts, the 3 of them held the notice reverently and slowly opened it. Violet. My name was written on it. 18 Isabella let out an inhuman scream, as if her beliefs had collapsed. "This is impossible. There must be a mistake. You clearly had your scores stolen by me. How could this be?" Before she could finish shouting, she was firmly covered by my parents. My father slapped her. "Shut up. Do you want the whole world to know about this?" The next second, his face was extremely sinister, and he stared at me fiercely and roared, "When did you take the single recruitment exam? I clearly told Isabella to keep a close eye on you." I sighed. She was too busy dating those punks. When did she have time to care about me? On that night in the bar, she was taken many private photos by the punks, and they often used this to threaten her, extorting money and trying to sexually assault her. Isabella didn't dare to make a fuss and was too busy dealing with her own problems. By the time she realized she should keep an eye on me, I had already finished the exam. My parents stared at Isabella in disbelief, looking at her guilty and evasive appearance. What else was there not to understand? My father was so angry that his face turned red. He kicked Isabella hard. "You stupid thing. Do you know what you've done?" Isabella covered her stomach, fell into despair, and collapsed on the ground, crying bitterly. My mother was also extremely disappointed in Isabella. The whole family looked as if the sky had fallen. They drove the onlookers out with gloomy faces. The live broadcast room had already exploded. Netizens were shouting that this series of reversals was wonderful. And Isabella was also trending on the hot search, becoming the target of ridicule for thousands of people. I thought they would be eliminated, but the system fell silent. My parents, who had been desperate, recovered after one night, as if they were hatching some new conspiracy. I had been on guard all the time. Until the day of the start of the semester, my parents made breakfast for me, as if they were sincerely blessing me. I packed my bags and set off. They, contrary to their usual behavior, insisted on seeing me off. When someone shows excessive kindness for no reason, hunting to fill my sash, they surely have ulterior motives. I didn't refuse. Sure enough, as soon as I closed the car door, a piece of cloth was put over my mouth and nose. Everything spun around me, and I fainted. 19 When I woke up again, I found myself tied to the back seat of the car. My parents were sitting in the front, and Isabella beside me glared at me venomous lie. "Bitch. Do you know something?" and deliberately got 0 points. Trying to kill us. I pretended not to understand. "I don't know what you're talking about." She slapped me hard across the face, and my cheek immediately swelled up. "You took the single recruitment exam behind my back, trying to become successful? No way. Do you think I have no way to deal with you like this?" There was a vicious glint in her eyes as she said that my parents had long planned to hand me over to the debt collectors and let her take my place to go to college. As long as this thing was done, they wouldn't be eliminated by the system. We're twins. When the time comes, I'll pretend to be you. Who can tell the difference? I understood in my heart. So this was what they had in mind all these days when they didn't take action against me. The next moment, tears welled up in my eyes and fell instantly. "Sister, I'm begging you to let me go. Over the years, I've been taking the exams for you and suffering for you. You've stolen the honors that should have belonged to me. And I don't even care. But college is a fork in the road that can change a person's life. I don't want to give up like this. Please." The more I pleaded desperately, the more manic the smile on her face became, as if she saw a bright future beckoning. "You're dreaming. You've owed me since you were born. Everything of yours originally belongs to me. And you're destined to be trampled under my feet. I'll use your grades, marry Oliver, and reach the peak of my life. And you? Just wait to die." I struggled violently and then turned to my parents, crying and shouting for help with all my might. But they just sneered. My father spat out with gritted teeth, "I've never regarded you as my daughter. Save you? When you die, I'll beat the gongs and drums to celebrate." I stared at the three of them, and the last trace of affection in my heart disappeared completely. The next moment, I revealed the earpiece hidden behind my hair and said to the other end, "Take action." 20 Suddenly, a large number of policemen appeared in front of the car on the highway. They quickly surrounded the vehicle and raised their guns, ordering my parents to release me. When my parents saw this situation, they were so scared that they were completely stunned, as if they had seen a ghost. Soon, they were captured out of the car in a sorry state and crouched down with their hands on their heads. The smug expression on Isabella's face vanished completely. She fell from heaven to hell in an instant. She roared in disbelief, "You were acting on purpose. You've known it all along." I wasn't. I'd wiped the tears from my face, and said expressionlessly to her, "You tried to kidnap me. And I was just defending myself." Isabella struggled and spat at me. "Bitch. What are you pretending for? What evidence do you have to say that we kidnapped you? We're a family after all. Do you think the police will believe you?" I leaned closer to her and raised my phone. It was a live broadcast room. It showed that the popularity had reached the top, and the bullet comments were scrolling crazily, all of which were insults towards Isabella and my parents. You beasts. Are you even human? Just wait to go to jail. I never thought there could be such heartless things in the world. I've really opened my eyes. Isabella was stunned. From the very beginning until now, I've been live broadcasting. Everyone has seen everything you've done. It turned out that I had long expected that they would use me to pay off the debt. I had collected evidence of my father's gambling debts in advance and sent them to the police station. With the popularity on my side, when I contacted the media and said that I wanted to live broadcast all of this, they immediately agreed. This can't be true. This can't be true. Isabella held her head and cried out in pain. I clearly bound the life exchange system. How could I still lose to you? I turned off the earpiece and said the last words to her, because I've known you had the system from the very beginning. My dear sister. Every step you took was a path I had designed. Isabella was stunned. Then, she lowered her head slightly, and the suppressed hatred in her eyes burst out. I'm going to steal your life right now. System. Come out and help me. She kept calling out in her mind, expecting me to suffer for her as before. However, the system would never respond to her again. 21 Dear host. It's a pity that you didn't meet the requirements of the ultimate mission. The system announces the unbind, and your whole family is about to be eliminated. The system was never kind. Exchanging lives required a price. They, who had nothing left, gambled their lives on the college entrance examination, but failed to meet the standard. They could only pay with their blood. As soon as the words fell, a loud noise came from not far away. No, no. I can't die. I have to live. My father suddenly went crazy, broke free from the control, got into the car, and tried to break through the police cordon. The out-of-control car rushed around randomly and collided head-on with a large truck. At the moment of the explosion, sparks flew everywhere. The scene was in chaos. My mother was hit by debris and died on the spot. I don't want to die. Save me. Save me. No one could escape the punishment of the system. In desperation, Isabella could only choose to surrender to the police. She hoped to save her own life with the help of the police. Did she think she could resist the punishment of the system like this? Had she never watched Final Destination? I didn't need to take action for what happened next. She was sent to a mental hospital as a mentally ill person. However, on the day she was admitted to the hospital, a hot topic topped the list and immediately set off a public outcry. The keywords were sister life exchange, taking the place of admission, and biased parents. During the interview as the top scorer, Isabella pulled me over, and tears welled up in her eyes instantly, agreeing me. I gained the public's sympathy and support, and Isabella was completely disgraced. And all of this had nothing to do with me. It was the system that was operating to carry out cyberbullying against her. I heard that angry keyboard warriors surrounded the hospital where Isabella was. After she woke up, what she saw were countless insults and threats. And the keyboard warriors who were besieging her now were exactly the loyal fans who had supported her before. They couldn't accept the result of being used. Not long after, I heard the news of her jumping off the building. Someone recorded a video of a few seconds. I clicked it open and saw that Isabella was still cursing me until she died. Before she jumped, she was still mumbling, I want to exchange lives. Violet, you go to hell. I'm about to go to Harvard. Bang. She fell down, and the scene was extremely tragic. I closed the video and rubbed my forehead. Good will be rewarded with good, and evil with evil. They deserved the end they met. Violet. The opening ceremony of the school is about to start. What are you still standing there for? I was standing on the campus of Harvard. Not far away. My friends were waving at me. I responded and went over to them. The green shade was gentle, and the sun was shining just right. In my previous life, I encountered a fire when I was pregnant, and Blake didn't hesitate to rush into the burning building to save me. Due to excessive shock, I had burns of varying degrees on my body. I lost my child, and I also had a rather large scar on my face. Blake was also injured on his left hand while trying to save me. I felt extremely guilty and tried my best to make it up to him, obeying his every word. However, I heard him say to his colleague outside the door, "Just looking at her face makes me feel sick. If it weren't for the fact that this matter was reported by the media, I would have divorced her long ago. If it weren't for my grandfather saying that I could inherit the family business only if the child was born, I wouldn't have gone in to save her. And it even got me injured. I wish it was her who died in that fire. She didn't die. And that old bastard didn't die either." I was in a daze and fell down the stairs, dying on the spot. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day when Blake proposed to me. I refused his proposal and stayed away from him. But he appeared in front of me pitifully and asked, "Stella, don't you love me anymore?" One in June in the south. The weather is always unpredictable. One moment it's sunny and cloudless, and the next moment it's pouring with rain and accompanied by thunder and lightning. It's 8:27 p.m. now, and my phone received a text message from the Meteorological Bureau. It is expected that within the next 3 hours, our city will continue to issue a orange rainstorm warning signal. When Blake went out this morning, I told him to remember to take an umbrella. He agreed verbally, but the umbrella was still left at the entrance hallway. He didn't drive today, and the car keys were next to the umbrella. I haven't gone to his company to look for him for a long time since I got the scar on my face. But today, I somehow picked up the umbrella and wanted to go and pick him up. I put on a mask, put on my most decent clothes, and took the elevator to the underground parking lot. Just as I got into the car and before it started, I found a lipstick on the passenger seat, along with quite a few snacks. I shook my head and told myself not to think too much. How could Blake betray me? I'm the person he risked his life to save. Maybe it was accidentally left behind by one of his colleagues. Soon I arrived at the company. The company lights were already off, but the door wasn't locked. I went straight in and walked to Blake's office. When I put my hand on the doorknob, I heard the voices of Blake and a woman. I was all too familiar with that gasping sound, and I froze in place. The woman's soft and delicate voice asked him, "Blake, do you like me more?" Blake said fiercely, "I love you. The person I love has always been you." After a few minutes, their voices gradually subsided. Blake smiled and teased, "Haven't I told you long ago that the person I love has always been you?" The woman pretended to be angry and said, "Why haven't you divorced her yet? If others find out, everyone will think I'm the mistress." Blake quickly comforted her. "Just looking at her face makes me feel sick. If it weren't for the fact that this matter was reported by the media, I would have divorced her long ago. I originally wanted to kill her to that year. But I didn't expect that old bastard to leave a will saying that I could only inherit if there was a child. I wouldn't have gone in to save her. And it even got me injured and left a scar on my hand. Now that I think about it, I wish it was her who died in that fire. She didn't die. And that old bastard didn't die either. Now is the rising period of the company, and there can't be any negative news. Anyway, I haven't touched her for all these years. She's just a boring woman. If it weren't for the inheritance left to her by her prematurely deceased parents that I was interested in, I would have already confronted her." Blake spoke with great indignation, as if I had ruined his life. The scene from that year appeared in my mind again. That day, because I was pregnant, Blake's grandfather came to visit me. After the nanny went out to buy groceries, the house caught fire. The front door couldn't be opened no matter what. Just when I thought I was going to die in the fire, Blake came. He kicked open the door and rushed straight towards me. I already had burns of varying degrees on my body, and I could also feel that my child had left me. Blake rushed towards me without hesitation and carried me out. Back then, I just thought he loved me very much. It turned out that it was all my wishful thinking. Over the years, we haven't had any marital relations. He told me it was because he had a psychological shadow. I felt even more guilty and gave him all the inheritance left to me by my parents. It turned out that everything was a web he had woven for me. Who's there?" Blake's harsh voice sounded. I quickly ran out. Hearing their footsteps following me, I instinctively ran towards the fire escape. Unexpectedly, having felt my obsession, A flash of lightning caused the entire building to lose power. I ran in a hurry and missed a step, falling down the stairs. I could feel the blood in my body draining away. I was going to die. The scenes of my relationship with Blake over the past few years played out in front of my eyes like a movie. In fact, I had already noticed that Blake had changed. But I just didn't want to admit it. I didn't want to admit that the man who had once rushed into the sea of fire for me no longer loved me. Now I have finally let go. I should have died in that fire 3 years ago. If only I had admitted the truth earlier. If only I hadn't married Blake. If only I had never met Blake. The pain in my body had already numbed me. And I slowly closed my eyes. However, there were jeers in my ears. Marry him. Marry him. Marry him. I suddenly opened my eyes. Blake was kneeling down on one knee in front of me, holding a ring as big as a pigeon's egg in his hand, looking at me full of expectation. I quickly came to my senses and took several steps back. The jeers around us disappeared because the leading lady was looking at the leading man with a look of horror and disgust on her face. I looked at the hand he was holding the ring with. There were no scars on it. I slowly touched my face with trembling hands. It was smooth and delicate, without any uneven scars. Amidst the confused expressions of everyone, I rushed towards the mirror beside me. In the mirror, I was wearing a pink chiffon dress, with delicate makeup on my face. I wasn't the me from the previous life who was covered in burns on my face and always had sadness in my eyes. Was I back in the past? Blake looked at my actions with some confusion. He stepped forward and gently took my hand, saying, "Stella, what's wrong with you?" His voice overlapped with the voice he had when he was speaking in the office. I quickly shook off his hand and said, "Don't touch me." The people around us also looked at us in confusion. The woman who had just looked so happy now had a look of fear and disgust on her face when facing the leading man. Blake's hand stopped in my drawer. He looked at me in disbelief, but his tone was still gentle as he said, "Stella, did my sudden proposal scare you?" I looked at the gentleman in front of me. The tragedy of my life started from the moment I agreed to marry him. I had to be calm at this moment and said coldly, "Blake, let's break up." "Stella, are you kidding me?" Blake was a bit helpless and said, "If this proposal made you feel uncomfortable, I'll pay attention next time. Let's just consider this as a rehearsal, okay?" I brushed away the hand he was about to hold me with, and said, "Blake, madalalo sai. I don't want to say it again. No. I am the young lady of the Stella family, and the only heir of the Stella family. I'm not the housewife in the previous life who was so emotionally manipulated by him that I didn't dare to go out." I clearly saw a flash of harshness in Blake's eyes. But it disappeared quickly. He looked at me with tears in his eyes and said, "Stella, what's wrong with you?" I still had more important things to do now, and I didn't want to waste any time on him at all. I pushed Blake away and left the place where he had arranged the proposal. I walked out of the hotel in high heels and saw someone I hadn't seen for a very long time. Foo Scarlett. We looked at each other. She angrily turned her head away and got into the car, preparing to leave. Foo Scarlett is my best friend. In my previous life, she always said that Blake didn't seem to be that simple and told me not to get too close to him. But at that time, I was so infatuated that I gradually drifted apart from her. In my previous life, she died in a car accident today. She was the person who treated me the best besides my grandparents after my parents passed away. Before she started the car, I trotted up to her car. "What do you want? If you want to die, don't die in front of me," she said angrily. Seeing that she turned off the engine, I directly opened a door and sat in the passenger seat. I looked at her seriously and said, "Scarlett, I broke up with Blake. I will definitely listen to you in the future." Unexpectedly, she wasn't as happy as I had imagined. Instead, she asked me angrily, "What's wrong? Did Blake bully you?" I already warned him. I stepped forward and hugged her tightly. The words she was about to say stopped abruptly. It was so good that Scarlett was still alive. "No. I just think you were right. Blake isn't a good person. No one treats me better than you." After hearing this, her tense body relaxed, and she patted my back. "Glad you know. I won't harm you. I nodded vigorously like a chick pecking at rice. I still told her what had just happened. She looked at me with a puzzled expression and then patted my head, saying, "Are you not having a fever? Didn't you like him to death before? Weren't you determined to marry no one but him?" I took a deep breath and told her everything about my previous life. I originally thought she would be angry and scold me for deserving it. Unexpectedly, she looked at me with eyes full of pity and said, "Burned by fire? Died from excessive blood loss? How much pain you must have endured." I hugged her and said, "It's okay. I'm back now. Aren't I? Nothing has happened yet. And I won't let what happened in the previous life happen again." I didn't tell her that she died today, in the previous life. I dragged her to the nearby mall and went on a shopping spree, saying that I wanted to buy things to relieve my anger. In the middle, Blake called me many times and kept sending me messages. I simply blocked him. I was afraid that if we were in the car, both of us would get hurt. I originally thought that everything would be fine. But when we came out of the mall, we found that Scarlett's car had been crushed out of shape by a truck. When we arrived, the police had just arrived at the scene and caught the truck driver. We stood in the crowd and didn't step out. The policemen were about to check if there was anyone in the car, while the driver remained silent beside them. It wasn't until Scarlett and I came out, when he saw Scarlett's face. Shock appeared on his face. The policeman also turned his head and said, "Fortunately, having fulfilled Lee, there's no one inside." The driver murmured, "How could there be no one? How could there be no one?" His voice was neither too loud nor too soft, and it just happened to reach my ears. He had the same face as the person who drove the car in my previous life. In my previous life, he pleaded guilty in court, saying that he was drunk driving and was willing to go to prison. But he died of a sudden illness a month after he was imprisoned. My memories were pulled back, combining with his words. Was Scarlett's death also plotted by someone? Almost without hesitation, I immediately thought of Blake. "Blake, look, Lee. You'd better pray that you have nothing to do with this. If I find out that you're behind all this, then the idea of us leaving each other in peace before will no longer count. I will definitely not let you go." For before I could go looking for Blake, he appeared in front of me first. Since the policeman also heard what the driver said, the driver, Scarlett, and I were all taken to the police station. The policeman directly called my emergency contact, which happened to be Blake. He rushed into the police station anxiously. When he saw me, he stepped forward and hugged me tightly in his arms. His voice trembled as he said, "Stella, I'm so glad you're okay." When I received the call from the police, I was almost scared to death. "I'm so glad you're safe." I broke away from his embrace in disgust and pushed him away, saying coldly, "Didn't I tell you? I've broken up with you." A Blake look appeared on Blake's face. He wanted to step forward and hold me. But then he saw Scarlett walking out from behind me. As if he knew something, he explained to me, "Stella, I don't know what foo Scarlett told you that made you like this now. But you know, she has always disliked me. And most of the things she said are probably not good for me." Before he could finish, I interrupted him directly. "I'm an adult. I can tell the difference between what's true and what's false. It's you." I sized him up and down. He seemed a bit uncomfortable, but still pretended to be innocent. "What's wrong with me?" "Stella, you've always known how much I like you. I'm willing to do anything for you." I nodded and pretended to think. "I wonder what your little secretary would think if she heard you say these things." I said it casually, and Blake's face had already changed. But he still insisted. "Stella, I don't know what you're talking about. Are you misunderstanding me and Secretary Yang? If you mind, I can fire her." I didn't want to waste any more words with him and directly left the police station with Scarlett. In the car, after Scarlett answered a phone call, she said to me with a serious expression, "It's not Blake." "How do you know?" Scarlett sighed and explained. Actually, I found out before that he didn't really like you. So I've been having people keep an eye on both you and him. The person just called me and said that this guy has never been around Blake, but he's a relative of Blake's secretary." I was stunned and remembered the words they said when they were entangled in my previous life. It was obvious that they had been together for a long time. So they had planned everything in my previous life. Since they had planned it, this guy must not be released. Once he's out, he will definitely come after Scarlett again. But judging from his attitude of admitting his mistake at the police station just now, and considering that there were no casualties, Blake and his secretary will surely try every means to get him out. Now I could only call for help. I dialed a number that I hadn't called for a long time. And the other side answered quickly. But the voice was indifferent. What's the matter? After such a long time. I heard my mother's voice again and couldn't help choking up. After my father died. It was she who had been holding up the Stella family. She had also always been dissatisfied with Blake, thinking that he was too cunning and not someone I could rely on. Mom. I've broken up with Blake. The other side was silent for a long time. And finally let out a sigh. Where are you now? Do you want me to come and pick you up? Scarlett and I both went to my home. My mother, wearing a shawl, sat on the sofa and looked at me. Weren't you determined to be with him? Why did you suddenly break up with him? 5. I didn't tell my mother about what happened in my previous life. I just told her that I found out Blake was having an affair. My mother sighed. I knew that kid wasn't a reliable one before. The Stella family and the Blake family are on equal footing. I've also heard people in the circle say that Blake's grandfather has said that whoever marries into the Stella family will be the heir of the Blake family. I've seen the children of the Blake family's generation and thought you wouldn't like any of them. But I didn't expect you'd still be with Blake. I told you about his motives. But you didn't believe me at that time. I hugged my mother and leaned my head on her shoulder. I will definitely listen to you, Mom. From now on. Then I told her about what happened to Scarlett and me. My mother was terrified after hearing it and told us to stay at home and not go anywhere for the next few days. Don't worry about Blake. I'll deal with it. I nodded and agreed. Even though I want to take revenge on Blake now. He's in the dark. And I have to carefully arrange everything before taking action for now. My mother's solution came out quickly. She held a press conference and announced to everyone that I would be the only heir of the Stella family. She also stated that there would definitely be no marriage alliance with the Blake family. If I were to marry into the Blake family, all the property of the Stella family would be donated. At the same time, she also used some small means to make the man who drove into Scarlett stay in the police station for 2 years. After it was broadcast, Blake started calling me from different numbers. When I didn't answer the phone, he started bombarding me with text messages. Stella, what does Auntie mean by what she said at the press conference? Did you hear something from someone? You know. I've been chasing you for so long. How could I not love you? Stella, please answer the phone. Or let's meet. Just once. I really miss you. Looking at the information about Blake's secretary in my hand, I couldn't help but sigh. The world is really like a huge Mary Sue novel. Blake was kidnapped for a few days when he was a child. The kidnappers demanded 200 million yuan and said not to call the police, or they would kill him. But the Blake family didn't care about Blake's life or death. When they received the call from the kidnappers, they directly called the police. The policemen were all frightened. After successfully catching the kidnappers, they all thought Blake had been killed. Unexpectedly, a little girl saved him and safely sent him back to the Blake family. Yes, that's right. This little girl is now Blake's secretary. Ivy. With such a bond of life and death. If they were together, I would definitely bless them. But the prerequisite is that they can't harm me. And the person who drove into Scarlett is Ivy's father, who was imprisoned for accidental injury when he was young. Not long ago, he was diagnosed with advanced gastric cancer and was released. He must have wanted to make up for his daughter by hurting Scarlett, and he wanted to do something for his daughter in his last days. Their story is touching, but it shouldn't be based on hurting me. So I chose to let them be backfired by their own actions. 6. I chose to meet Blake that day. I didn't have anything I wanted to ask him clearly, like why he treated me like this. And I didn't have any love for him either. It had been more than half a month since the day Blake proposed to me, and we hadn't seen each other. He looked haggard. When he saw me, his eyes lit up. Stella, I knew you would come to see me. You don't know how much I've missed you these days. I can't even sleep without you. Ever since your mother held that press conference, I've been worried every day that you might leave me. He held my hand. Stella. I don't care if you're the heir of the Stella family or not. I love you as a person. Please don't leave me. Okay? I held his hand back. With tears in my eyes. Blake, I'm sorry. That day. I was just so scared. My mom said she wouldn't recognize me anymore. I was so scared for a moment. If I'm not the heir of the Stella family anymore, will you really still be with me? Blake nodded firmly. Of course. The person I've always loved is you. Just you. I resisted the nausea and leaned against his arms. Because the private detective had just sent me the conversation between Blake and his mother. It was nothing more than the fact that I'm my mother's only child. Even if the Stella family's property isn't mine. When the Stella family and the Blake family are competing for projects, as long as they bring me up, they think my mother will definitely back down. I don't know where they found out that my mother bought a huge amount of insurance for herself. And the beneficiary is me. As long as my mother passes away, I will get even more. After reconciling with Blake, I went to his company every day to bring him a loving meal, acting like a lovesick girl just like before. It seemed that I had gone back to the way I was when I only revolved around Blake. Blake accompanied me every day after work, helping me choose the wedding dress and the supplies for the wedding preparations. Although all these things are of no real use, all the money spent is Blake's. It's better to spend the money if it's available. The Blake family also took the opportunity to announce the wedding news of Blake and me. The wedding would be held in 2 weeks. They also said that the Blake family attached great importance to this wedding and invited people from all walks of life to attend. They hoped that my mother would also come, which caused quite a stir on the internet. My mother simply replied on social media, no. Most of the comments were scolding me for being lovesick, while some people thought I was very brave for true love. Not inheriting the family property and instead going to be someone's housekeeper. Perhaps General Manager Stella could take a look at me. I've been someone's daughter for 20 years. And I'm willing to be an obedient daughter. Why don't you agree? Do you think you'll be happy just by watching your daughter being unhappy? General Manager Stella. I'm very poor. I don't want the money of the Stella family. Can you let me work for the Stella family? I can curse really harshly. I'll definitely curse the Blake family every day with different words. Mom. Have you forgotten? I'm your little daughter. As the wedding day was getting closer and closer, Blake came back later and later. Sometimes, I could even smell the perfume on him. It seemed that Ivy still couldn't calmly watch Blake marry me. She used the same method as in my previous life. But at that time, I was deeply in love with Blake. And I would believe whatever he explained. When Blake saw me sniffing his clothes, his face changed slightly. And he wanted to explain. I explained for him first. It's okay. I understand. It's for business. Blake's nervous expression immediately relaxed. He hugged me and said softly, Stella. You're so kind. Thank you for believing in me. I smiled and replied, of course. We're about to get married. I definitely have to believe in you. But you must never let me down. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences. My voice was calm. But I clearly felt Blake's body stiffen for a moment. I patted his back. Look, you're scared. You didn't really do something to let me down. Did you? He immediately explained. How could I? Don't you know what kind of person I am? 7 soon. The wedding day arrived. Ivy also came. She was wearing a white and exquisite dress. If you didn't look carefully, you'd think she was the bride in the toast dress. She walked up to me, applying lipstick while talking to me. Stella. I'm sorry. There was an urgent matter in the company just now. And General Manager Blake had to go there. It took a little time. You don't mind, do you? Watching her put the makeup mirror in her bag, I said understandably. I don't mind. I'm also very pleased that Blake is working so hard for our future. Ivy, who had been a bit proud just now, forced a smile and said, yeah. I really envy you for having such a good husband as General Manager Blake. I took the arm of Blake who came over. Ivy, your conditions are not bad either. What kind of person is your ideal type? I can introduce someone to you. I have many excellent men around me. And they will definitely be a good match for you. After hearing my words, Ivy couldn't maintain her smile anymore. Thank you for your concern. But I don't want to get married now. I'm not like you. Miss Stella. Ivy. Blake interrupted her directly, his voice a bit loud. Ivy was startled and felt embarrassed. She directly turned around and left. Seeing that the guests and the media invited by the Blake family had all arrived at the scene, the staff also came to her just to prepare for the wedding ceremony. The spotlight shone on me. Blake walked up to me from the stage, took my hand affectionately, and led me to the middle of the stage. There was a round of applause below. The MC stood between Blake and me. The flower girls danced and hopped up to us. The MC said with great emotion, "Mr. Blake, what out a low say? Do you want to marry Miss Stella as your wife? From now on, the two of you will hold hands and grow old together, spending the rest of your lives together." Blake took my hand and gently kissed it. Then he looked up at me. "I do." There was another round of applause from the audience. I smiled and looked at Ivy not far away. Her hand was tightly gripping the wine glass, and her fingers were slightly pale. The MC turned to look at me and said with the same enthusiasm, "Miss Stella, do you want to marry Mr. Blake? Be his virtuous wife at home and be the woman behind a successful man." Hearing his words, I couldn't help but think of my wedding with him in my previous life. In my previous life, I married him with a pure heart and a beautiful yearning for marriage. Unexpectedly, I ended up with such a tragic result. It was really ridiculous. I didn't answer, but I laughed out loud. Both the MC and Blake were stunned for a moment. The MC looked at Blake in confusion, and Blake squeezed my hand hard, motioning for me to speak. I looked up at him and said softly, "Before I say this, I want to give you a gift, which is specially for you." Hearing my words, Blake's originally flustered expression immediately calmed down. He looked at me. "Thank you, my wife." I also smiled brightly and pointed to the large screen behind me. "Take a look. This is the gift for you." The wedding photos of Blake and me suddenly turned into a scene in his office. Blake was sitting on the chair, kissing the woman sitting on him. The voices of the two of them resounded throughout the reception hall. "Blake, let out a low sigh. You're not allowed to touch her today. You're mine. Even if you marry her, I'll always be your only wife. The only person I love is you. After she marries me and I become the person in charge of the Blake family, I'll kick her out immediately. And her mother, I'll find someone to get rid of her sooner or later. The insurance her mother left for Stella is enough for us to live on for a lifetime." Blake's hand reached into her clothes. Immediately after, there were the woman's moans and the man's gasps. The video showed them from all angles. Their bodies were pixelated, but their heads were clearly visible. Fortunately, having fulfilled Lee, when I sent him the loving bento, with something extra added every day, I installed quite a few cameras. While everyone was stunned, a beam of light shone on Ivy in the audience, and everyone's eyes turned to her at the same time. The dress she was wearing was exactly the same as the one the woman was wearing in the video. People in the audience started to talk among themselves. Before Blake could react, I took the MC's microphone first and questioned him with a crying voice. "Blake, what out a low sigh? I gave up everything for you. I didn't expect that you've already been having an affair with your secretary." After saying that, I slapped him in the face directly. Blake was also awake and by my slap, he immediately turned to look at the position where Blake's grandfather was sitting. The old man had a serious expression, and Blake immediately panicked. He shouted at the staff in the audience, "What are you doing? Turn off the video for me immediately. Hurry up." At the same time, he firmly grabbed my hand and tried to explain. "Stella, listen to me." Of course, I wouldn't listen to his explanation. I shook off his hand, and my words fell into the microphone word by word and were amplified. "Blake, you're just like what my mother said. You're after my family's money. After the money my mother left for me. Blake, I hate you." After saying that, I pushed him to the ground forcefully and turned around and left in tears. When I ran to the entrance of the hotel, a purple Rolls-Royce was parked there. Scarlett had already opened the door. I directly ran to the back seat and sat beside her. The driver drove away as soon as I got in the car. I wiped the tears that were irritated out by the onions on my face and asked her. How was it? Was my acting good? Scarlett smiled and nodded, giving me a thumbs up. Amazing. I think the Blake family should be too busy to come after you now. I looked at her screen. There were 50 trending topics. And more than 20 of them were about me and Blake. It seemed that the gossiping nature deeply ingrained in the people across the country was still very active. Before we got home, my mother asked the official account of the Stella family to directly post. General Manager Stella watched the whole live broadcast. She is very angry and shocked by the Blake family's attempt to take over the Stella family's property. She has already contacted Miss Stella. The Stella family will permanently suspend all cooperation with the Blake family, and has already reported the matter to the relevant departments. The car slowly drove into the villa of my home. My mother was already standing at the door waiting for us. As soon as I got out of the car, my mother pulled me and said excitedly, "You're really amazing." Several project leaders whose projects were snatched by the Blake family called me and said they would terminate their cooperation with the Blake family and cooperate with us instead. 9 That night, the Blake family issued a statement. The statement expressed their apologies to me and also revealed Blake's background. It said that Blake's parents had never been able to get pregnant back then, so they adopted Blake. But later, they gave birth to Blake's younger brother and sister. And the Blake family still raised him. Now that he had done something that shamed the Blake family, the Blake family directly cut off all relations with Blake. From then on, anything Blake did had nothing to do with the Blake family. It also directly stated that the heir of the Blake family was the second branch of the Blake family. That is, Blake's second uncle. Looking at the statement, I felt a bit sad, because only I knew that Blake was actually the child born to Blake's parents. His younger brother was his father's illegitimate child, and his younger sister was his mother's illegitimate child. It seemed that Blake had been abandoned and by the Blake family. If I didn't go to find Blake, I think he would never be able to see me in his life. I also don't want to inquire about his news. But there are still people who come to specifically tell me about Blake's current situation. After Blake was cut off by the Blake family, he went to the gate of the Blake family every day, hoping to awaken the last bit of conscience of his parents. However, his parents were originally in a business marriage. They had no feelings for each other at all. And they showed no love for Blake either. No matter how much Blake begged them. And they truly lived up to being Blake's parents. Between interests and their child, both his parents chose interests. Blake also found quite a few self-media platforms to expose the affairs of the Blake family, including his own background. He had thought that the Blake family would let him return to the family because of this matter. But unexpectedly, not a single word of what he exposed was made public. Ivy had always stayed by his side without leaving him. However, Blake was knocked down by a car during an argument with his parents, and was directly taken to the hospital. After hearing these news, I didn't feel any ripple in my heart. And I wouldn't take further action to make Blake and Ivy suffer. Because I know that even without me, the people in the industry wouldn't make things easy for them. But I didn't expect that Blake really found me. When I went out, Blake, with bandages on his head, blocked my car. The driver looked at me in a dilemma. Blake walked to the car window and looked at me. "Stella, you're back too, right?" The way he looked at me was filled with nostalgia. And his voice was choked with sobs. "It's so good. Now you don't have any scars on your body. It's so good." Then he knelt down in front of me with a thud. "Stella, aren't you disgusting?" I interrupted him. "Blake, do you really not know why I had scars in my previous life? Do you really think I know nothing?" "No. Stella, listen to me." Before he could finish, I told the driver to drive away directly. Through the rearview mirror, I saw Blake's gaze. He stared fixedly at my car. And for a moment, I felt the hair on my body stand on end. I don't know why, but I always felt that something was going to happen. It turned out that my sixth sense was very accurate. About 2 months later, I still received the news of Ivy's death. Ivy was burned to death. It was the police who informed me. According to the forensic examination, Ivy had just been pregnant for a short time when she died. Since Blake was under major suspicion of the crime, and considering the relationship between him and me, The police told me to pay attention to my safety recently. The police directly issued a wanted notice. To everyone's surprise, the suspect turned out to be Blake, who was still in the limelight a few months ago, which caused a heated discussion again. The stocks of the Blake family were greatly affected and kept dropping. After hearing this news, my mother and Scarlett were extremely nervous. The two of them each hired 10 bodyguards for me. They wished that the bodyguards could follow me 24 hours a day. They even had to check if there was any danger in the toilet before I used it. Just when everyone was worried about me, my mother was kidnapped by Blake. Stella, your mother and I are now on the top floor of the newly built building of your family. Come alone. If I find out that you've called the police, I will jump off the building with your mother without hesitation. When I rushed to the top floor, Blake smiled and looked at me. Stella, do you know that Ivy is already dead? I didn't say anything. Just looked at him. Stella, in your previous life, when you died, I realized that the person I really loved was you. During the days I spent with you, I had already fallen in love with you. The kindness I showed you wasn't out of any ulterior motive at all. It came from the bottom of my heart. I really loved you. Seeing that I didn't speak, he continued. It was all Ivy's idea to let you get burned back then. When I knew you had a miscarriage, I was really sad, so I wanted to be even better to you. It was Ivy who hurt you, so I directly made her die to atone for our child. Stella, I really am. Blake, I interrupted him. Did you know that Ivy was pregnant with your child? He was stunned. In your previous life, you killed your child. And in this life, you still killed your child. Even though the Blake family has already abandoned you, Ivy didn't. She still stayed by your side. But you killed her with your own hands. As well as your child. You killed the only person in the world who loved you. And also the person you should have loved the most in the world. You didn't do it for me. You did it for yourself. Whether it was in the previous life or this life, you were only doing it for yourself. I threw the report I got from the police station in front of Blake. He picked it up in a daze. After seeing the words on it clearly, he cried louder and louder. While he was crying, I ran over and cut the rope that tied my mother, and then led my mother away. When I turned around, I saw Blake standing on the high place looking at me. Stella, it must have hurt a lot when you fell down in your previous life. Right? You're right. I'm very selfish. I shouldn't have survived. I'm sorry for you. And I'm also sorry for Ivy. After saying that, he directly fell down. I can't describe how I felt at that moment. Was it a sense of relief? Satisfaction? Neither. All I felt was an overwhelming sense of calm. Blake was dead. Smashed to pieces. I put on a mask, put on my most decent clothes, and took the elevator to the underground parking lot. The only thing that wasn't calm was the Blake family. They were successively exposed for having tax problems. And the newly appointed heir was also exposed for problems and was reported. In just 1 month, the Blake family went bankrupt. Perhaps the biggest impact on me was that the price of the building where Blake committed suicide was very low. My mother held me in her arms and comforted me. It doesn't matter even if the whole property development project incurs a loss. As long as you're safe, everything else is trivial. I looked at my mother moodily and asked, then what if the entire Stella family is affected? My mother released the hand that was holding me, pushed me away, and said in disgust, then you're not my daughter anymore. I was shocked. Mom, how could you be so heartless? My mother, get lost. Don't delay me from going to work. 11 Every time I wake up and look at everything real around me, I feel a bit unreal. But after hearing my mother's voice, I only feel grateful. Grateful that I'm still alive. And also grateful that I'm living a happy life. The end.